Good morning, everybody. This is Eureka John, and you are watching Eureka Street Crypto Hub. And I'm not broadcasting live on Theta this morning because the stream was choppy and I have some work to do to figure it out. So you are watching this on YouTube, Odyssey, or BitChute right now, and I appreciate you jumping on. Sorry for the Theta people that would have jumped on this morning. I saw that Randy was just about to jump on there, and he was just saying hi right as I was turning off the stream because, I'm having some choppy issues. And if you've been watching the stream for the past week, you've probably noticed. So I'm working on that one. In the meantime, I don't want to stop what I'm doing just because of some technical difficulties. This is my daily video blog, after all, and my crypto blog. And this is tracking my constant crypto progress and anyway, just kind of just documenting my life in general. This is my time to have just with myself, with crypto, with things that I enjoy and do before I have to go be all these other things in life for the rest of the day. And as a result, I've gotten to meet a bunch of really cool people online and hear from their perspectives, things that they're interested in and things that they're doing in this crypto space. And there's always something going on. There's never a lack of anything happening or something new developing. And then every single day, I hate, sounds cheesy, but I have a eureka moment. Every single day I learn something new and I'm like, oh, I had no idea. And I have a guest today, and the name's Crypto Chemistry. And it's amazing, one of the beautiful things about the crypto space, and just even meeting people who are anons, and you don't know anything about them except for just the stuff that they put out and the information and the comments that they leave and the feedback they give you. And they could be anywhere in the world and you have no idea, but they're providing value to you and to your life and in general. And you don't have to know everything about people in order to find value in them. And that is one of the things that decentralization in the crypto space and autonomous finances and autonomous IDs and all that stuff is bringing to people, is that sense of value to people without having anything else follow them. You don't have to know what their status or standing is in life, what their what their credit score may be. It doesn't matter. It's that information that they are providing that day and that point and that time. And I don't know anything more about crypto chemistry except for some of the feedback way back when I first started doing this. He was one of the first people that actually watched some of my videos and was like, hey man, cool stuff. Do you know about Ichimoku clouds? Ichimoku cloud is a kind of an interesting way to do technical analysis. And I'd never heard of it. At the time I never even really heard of technical analysis, but that's not saying much. But then I started looking into it, and it's definitely a more interesting way to do technical analysis in crypto. And I believe he's moved on beyond that. I'll let him describe his journey. But now I'm at a point where I'm having people on my show because I know how to do that now. And I have crypto chemistry here. And today we're just going to kind of shoot the breeze and talk about things and talk about his journey in this crypto space and some of his interesting point of view and perspective. He's doing some pretty cool stuff. I believe last week, or was it 2 weeks ago, he used a podcast app as well and did an entire presentation on yield aggregation in DeFi. So that's also is an interesting subject. So anyway, without further ado, I know I have the CoinGecko screen up, but I'm not going to bother going through the market today because I want to get on to crypto chemistry here. But without further ado, I introduce you to crypto chemistry, and let's talk here. Let's see what's going on in the crypto space for you, and tell me a little bit about how you started and what things are looking like for you.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, John. It's a pleasure to be on this with you, and it's been a lot of many months. It's crazy that was, I think, back in January or February when we started talking. And my background in this industry has been, I guess I got involved in 2017 and got in at a good entry before the big hype cycle back in those days. So I've been a student of this market for almost, I suppose that's about 4.5 years now. My background is traditional finance and the stock market and doing things in that world. So there was, it's funny, you talked about TA, technicals a little bit. That's actually the original reason I got into this market was because I saw it as a breeding ground for TA. In the stock market, technicals don't work as reliably,
Hmm.
and the reason for that is just the number of participants. I found it's not as a reliable tool. It does still work, but that was actually why I even got involved with this in the first place.
Crazy. Wait, hold
So
on a second. So in the stock market, I would have thought the opposite because the crypto volatility. So you saying that the
there's
stock
more,
market is
yeah.
not as good to do TA in?
So the more volatility there is, the better for GA in
Huh.
general.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, because you have these patterns playing out in shorter time frames, and so that's what's really great about this market is it doesn't ever shut off. Versus stock market, they stop trading at like 4 o'clock or something
Yeah,
for
yeah.
the day. So it's like, and the weekends are off too. So you can play out these patterns in this market so much faster. Now that's part of the thing that drew me in here, but it was also, Ethereum back in 2017 was making a lot of noise, and the first real kind of programmable, like a smart contract thesis. None of us had really ever heard that before,
Mm-hmm.
and so there was that whole phase was different. It had its own catalysts, but that drew me in for sure. It drew a lot of people in. So yeah, somebody that I was around was just like, yeah, we gotta find the next bubble. And I'm like, well, crypto is probably the place for that. And he's like, yeah, my friend's telling me about this thing called Ethereum. And so I started digging in. I really liked what I was reading. I had heard about Bitcoin in years prior when it was much smaller, but just it never really got me super interested. And it was also very hard to buy. I couldn't figure out how to buy it back
Hmm.
in like the early days, man, like 2012.
Yeah.
So I just it's not as easy. It wasn't as easy as it is now. Like you had to find somebody on PayPal or something. It was a little different, but that's kind of my background in this market. Um, one thing I admire about you is that you have just relentlessly posted content. You are really trying to find people. You put this out there and you see what comes back, and you just kind of roll with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like a message in a bottle sometimes. I'm sitting here just kind of about to explode with all this stuff, and I can't begin to talk about it with anybody around here that I know, friends or family or neighbors or coworkers or whatever. Families a little bit, and my parents actually kind of listen to me, but but aside from that,
Yeah, no.
yeah. So I got to have some kind of outlet, and it's as a result, I've met people like you who are giving me feedback and starting conversations, which is really fun.
Well, it's funny because that's when we both started around the same time. I think putting content out there, trying to see what people were interested in digesting. And I did it for the same reason that you're describing was just like I would send out emails to friends, people I knew, and try to get conversations like this going. And it would always just fall on deaf ears. And eventually, it just clicked in my mind. It's like, okay, if I want to be dialogue, have a dialogue with people, it's just the internet's right there. You have a
Hmm.
captive audience, you have attention, you have people out there hungry to learn. So you got to tap into that.
Yeah.
If you can't find people in your immediate surroundings, that's what this is for. And so it's funny that we both kind of started doing it at the same time,
Yeah,
I think.
well, you got into crypto a little earlier than I did. I got in 2018, but right after the bubble popped. But uh, but yeah, you're right about that, about creating content and then just putting it out there and creating the space, and I didn't know. uh, a lot of people feel like they have to know a lot about a subject before they start, and you don't really. So I decided to take the approach of just kind of showing the process of learning rather than showing how to do something, being like, screwed up on that one, you know? So,
Yeah, exactly. That's what's great about this is it's all so new and bleeding edge that there's a lot to learn, and by having friends that you're learning with, I mean, this can be a team sport. I
yeah.
think I think the investing approach can for sure be a team sport because of all the different pockets of the market. I've had people, so we have a Discord um, at the cryptochemistry community, and I remember when I first started, it was just trying to get a couple people to join. You know what I mean? And it was
Mm-hmm.
just replying to comments on YouTube or TradingView or whatever, Twitter, wherever it was. And then once you have a core couple people to talk to kind of bounce ideas off of, it's huge.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had a couple great trades come across my way thanks to a couple people out there. I know you shared a couple good ideas back when I was really putting out a lot of content that made me a couple bucks. So you know,
Oh, heck yeah.
it's all just a team sport. Like it doesn't have to be a one versus all. I think it can be a team sport for sure.
Yeah, and especially I've said this in some of my videos is during the whole COVID con. I hate to even say the word. You know, the Rona lockdowns. It, team sports weren't happening. You know, and so what were people supposed to do in their house? And then suddenly you had Wall Street bets happening. You had all these people jumping into crypto, and all these different projects became people's teams. Yeah.
You know, it's funny you say that because a lot of my friends who I know people personally who didn't really do much trading or investing before that episode, and you're right. It's really just proliferated amongst people and crowds that I know personally within the past year. So there's a lot more market participants now, and they're not going away.
Yeah, yeah. You know, once people kind of get it and they understand, you know, what a lot of these platforms can do, even beyond Bitcoin, you know, as far as smart contracts and all that stuff, and then DeFi, democratizing financial tools for the average pleb, you know, and yeah,
Yeah,
I say
no,
constantly, I'm
I'm
just a working schlep. You know, I dollar cost average into stuff. I get my paycheck, and then I'll dollar cost average, and then start DeFiing it. You know, and then I'll use that what I've earned from those yields, and then put it back in. And I think I've got a pretty good freight train rolling so far.
I love it, man. I love that so much, and I think it's the DeFi part of it is a little harder for people to get into if they are used to just doing trading on like a Robinhood or a Coinbase.
Mm-hmm.
But once you can get them playing with the tech and putting some money into an LP pool and earning yields in different places, they start to get it.
Yeah.
And that was how it was for me because the first time I was seeing all those things happen on Uniswap last summer, and I finally gave in and started playing with it. That's when it really clicked for me. I mean, you have to use the tech, you have to get your hands dirty, and yeah, you might lose a couple bucks, but
Mm-hmm.
my recommendation is always just take take $200. I mean, it's not nothing, but with the way fees are, you have to kind of take more than $10 and play with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I have friends who are in traditional finance and stock market world who they're just like, yeah, I don't own any crypto and I never will. And I'm just like, why do you refuse to learn? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so, um, yeah, some people are never gonna look into it, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
They're the same people who refused to buy computers in the
Yep.
'90s. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
um, I think the DeFi part though is really fascinating. And so you kind of mentioned in the intro, you know, I kind of can come back to this for a second. My previous approach to crypto was always pretty technical analysis focused and pretty short term trade focused. And then basically I got kind of tired of being emotionally connected to all my trading. And so I mean, I can set up good trades, but I never really proved consistency yet. So consistency as a trader is the main thing, right? You want to hit um, a batting average above, where your winners just slightly outpace your losers. And so
Hmm.
I was win some and lose some and come out ahead by a little bit, but it really became clear to me that in the DeFi era, there's an ability to look at this as passive yield, and that's where I've shifted a lot of my focus. It is just I don't want to be staring at the chart all the time. I want
Yeah.
to think of it as more of an investor, where I'm placing longer term bets, because I always do so much better when I put that hat on in the stock market and in crypto. Less of a short term trader and more of a long term investor, where I have a thesis. Um, it's just easier. The market is much more forgiving. You can make a bad entry, but be right
Mm.
on the long term
Mm-hmm.
fundamentals, and get forgiven for a number of reasons by the market. So that's kind of where I've been lately. So I still use the Ichimoku Cloud system. I have a couple videos on my main YouTube page where I explained kind of how I use it, and there's links to different charts on TradingView and everything. So for anyone who wants to learn about the system, I would say just check that out. It's from February, but the intro still applies. So what's good about the Ichimoku Cloud? It's an automatic drawing of certain things on your chart. So instead of drawing trend lines and drawing levels and everything, that's a very subjective task where you and I would draw a trend line slightly differently whenever
Mm-hmm.
we would be doing something on a chart. The Ishimoku indicator just puts it right there on your trading view chart for you. So it removes a lot of work. And if you focus on the daily or the weekly chart, you can really not have to stare at it all day and wait for certain things to happen to take action. And then those long term signals tend to be better conviction. They tend to have higher conviction bets around them. So you can kind of be very, very patient and say, okay, if this signal only prints 2 or 3 times a year, then I know I need to bet on it.
Mm.
Versus, okay, I'm getting a moving average golden cross every 2 or 3 days. How do I know if this is the one time
Yeah.
it's going to work? With Ichimoku, you can a little more safely say, all right, like 2 or 3 times this signal tends to work.
Huh.
Um, and there's different signals within that system. I don't really want to use this as an educational seminar for that, but the links that I have on my YouTube page can kind of get you started for anyone who's looking to learn that system.
Okay, so
And
does it
everybody
take
has their
special
own way of using
software
it.
to do that? A special
No,
type? No?
I just use TradingView.
Okay.
TradingView is free, but they do have a paid system. I have the paid set up there.
Okay.
It's just a website service.
Huh.
I highly recommend it. It's pretty commonly used. If you see charts posted on Twitter, it's usually from a TradingView
Yeah.
account. But if you use the free version, I think you can. There's some ads that pop up every now and then, but I have the paid version, which is nice because you can set up customized alerts,
Yeah.
so it can email you if certain things happen, and it's very customizable. Um, but yeah, I would say for the average person, it doesn't really need to be a paid account.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're someone who's super plugged in, it's worth the money. It's a couple
Yeah.
hundred a year, and you can pay with crypto too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've mentioned that day trading and using a lot of TA and stuff like that. Um, I don't do it because I don't understand it very well, and I know that I will never beat the market by trying to day trade and or do real short-term trading. Um, I know it's possible. It's just there are people that spend all day, every day in their charts and stuff like that, and I don't have the time or the desire really to dig in those types of charts in that way. So I will always be average at it, even if I get good at it, compared to these people that are spending all their time in it. And so I just will, at this point, just kind of defer and be like, okay, I'm just going to dollar cost average because,
It's easier. Yeah, dollar cost averaging is just easier because you don't have to worry so much.
mm-hmm,
Because if you're doing those short term trades, I mean, you have to be prepared to stop your position out and take a loss.
mm,
And so you're going to take a lot more losses
yeah,
probably than if you're DCAing, if you're dollar cost averaging.
mm-hmm,
But I mean, yeah, if you look back, it's just those short term approaches. You're up against algorithms. You're up against people who have a lot of money, and
yeah,
they're manipulating the candlesticks and doing a bunch of different things. So it's a hard game to win.
yeah. I mean, it is
Your edge,
possible, right? It's possible to
the
become a
edge,
pro baseball player.
but that's the edge that we have is that we have a time horizon of several decades, right?
Yeah,
So the edge that we have is that we are not in a rush necessarily to make a certain number in a certain month. It's long term focus.
yeah,
That's a huge edge. Time is our main edge.
uh-huh. And I like what the analogy you used as a batting average. It's a long term game. It's a long batting average that really matters. And if you have a good average over a long amount of time, that really says something. But if you
Well,
were,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and that's what's really great about what we're doing here is because you're looking at a bunch of projects that I'm not looking at, and your audience is surfacing ideas to you that I would never even be looking at because I have my biases, I have my projects that I look at, and my ecosystems that I stay focused on, the developers and certain chains that I'm watching. And so when we can kind of come together to exchange ideas, we don't have time to digest every single new piece of information on some other
mm-hmm,
obscure project that's out there. And that's how long term you have to be willing to learn and throw away old biases. Otherwise, if you cannot adapt, you are not going to you're not going to make it in this
yeah,
market. So, that's where I think the real value comes here. And so there's these DeFi projects, there's these yield aggregators that I remember one day on Twitter. So I saw back in July there was like a DeFi demo day from the DeFi Alliance or something. They're like a Y Combinator for DeFi, so a startup accelerator
okay,
for new DeFi projects. And I didn't know much about this group, but they are a really well regarded group that kind of helps incubate these projects. And so I just clicked on it. Somebody like retweeted it in my Twitter feed, right? So
mm-hmm,
I just randomly clicked it one day. I was like, all right, I'll watch this and I'm going to take notes and write down who's a cool project.
uh-huh,
And it was through Zoom, so you could click and do breakout rooms after they presented, and then you could actually ask the founders of these companies questions, like
hmm,
how we are talking right now. So one of the ones I really liked was called Apollo DAO,
hmm,
and they just launched last week. So they are on the Terra ecosystem, and that was what I was talking about on CallIn. So that podcast app where we could have these live conversations and take audience questions was on the call-in app.
mm-hmm,
We've been doing a show once a week every Sunday. I don't know if we're going to do one today or not, but we might hop on there and just see who's talking. But this yield aggregator, I had not really done anything on Terra. I don't at that time. I didn't know anything about it, and so that was one way for me where I got to follow that project Apollo DAO, and they had a successful launch this week. They launched. So this is a team that raised like $2.5 million from venture capitalists to build their product, and within 24 hours of launch, I think they had like $200 million worth of total value locked in deposits.
wow,
So it's like it's crazy, right? Like
yeah,
$2 million and suddenly And if I could bring it up and find out, I actually
Well, I
don't
got a
remember.
question. Can I
Sure,
bring
go
it
for it.
back to some really major basics here? I hear Combinator thrown around by a lot of crypto projects and in DAOs. People talk about Y Combinator. They talk about VCs. They talk about accelerators. What exactly is all that? I mean, that's something that has all been a new thing for me since I've gotten into crypto, and I had no idea it existed. And people are throwing around the term VC. I don't even know what a VC is, but it turns out to be venture capitalist. But what do they do? You know, for people and
Yeah,
projects, and how do you get in contact with these types of people?
yeah, it's a great. I'm glad you asked that because something that we didn't talk about. Um, when I first started reading this market and learning about it, I had the same thing happen where I didn't know anything about that world, really about the venture capital world. I was really focused on the stock market
Uh
in
huh.
my day-to-day job, and that opened my eyes to that whole world. So reading about the people who were involved with Ethereum, these different projects, it got me inspired to get really involved with the venture capital community and learn more about it. So I actually ended up I actually ended up getting a job in venture capital after all that. That really was my kind of guiding light, and reading about crypto and everything got me into that world. So the space is basically you have groups of people with money that they have been trusted to go and find startup opportunities to
Okay.
invest in.
Uh huh.
So let's say me and you are millionaires. We go to some fund and say, hey, here's $1 million. Your job is now to go out and find startups to put this money in and
Huh.
make me money. You know what I mean?
Uh huh.
So they're just they're overseeing money of their clients, and then they go and try to, instead of picking stocks, they're picking startups.
Well,
So
real quick, do their clients know that they? I mean, crypto's risky, you know, and their clients are okay with that.
yeah, so you structure the fund in a certain thesis. So there are crypto funds, there are software funds for like sales forces and things.
Mm-hmm.
So when they set those funds up, they're saying, hey, we are going to set up a $100 million fund to go after water technology or space technology or um, internet technology. They just make categories kind of,
Mm-hmm.
and
Okay.
so you see a lot of crypto funds out there where they're raising funds to only invest in a certain industry.
Hmm.
So those people putting money in the funds understand kind of the risk profile
Yeah.
of that. So yeah, I mean when I started learning about it, I was like, man, like that would be really cool to do. I
Yeah.
would really much rather be investing in startups than the same old stocks that everybody's been buying and selling for the past 20 years.
Uh huh.
And yeah, with a little bit of grit, you can do anything.
Hmm.
And I was very privileged. I kind of got into a role where I was doing that. Nothing crypto related, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm not there anymore. But I learned a lot, and
Yeah.
so I'm still in that world. Not doing any crypto related stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
that's going to change in the next 10 years.
Okay. So whenever people say, you know, I've heard both positive and negative things about VC funded projects. What does it mean when a project is VC funded, and how can that be good or bad?
Yeah, because the reason they say bad is that means they're buying a token at a fraction of the price, some pre-sale, private sale of a token. So you have to analyze a little bit deeper than just, oh, is this VC or is it not? You have to understand, okay, what's the token distribution look like? Was there, in fact, a private sale of tokens?
Hmm.
And are they going to have a lockup? So a lot of VC projects have lockups where they say, okay, VC, you're going to come in and buy these tokens for a penny each, and you're going to be under a 1 year lockup where you can't sell anything you bought for a year. And then what happens is you'll see a lot of projects, and they'll have a public sale where you and I could get in, and then let's say that's 6 months after the private sale, and there's a 1 year lockup. Well,
Mm-hmm.
then once that 1 year lockup passes, the assumption is those VCs are just going to dump the position that they got for a fraction. It
Okay.
doesn't always happen, and it depends on the VC.
Yeah.
So what I like to do, there's a couple of VCs that I follow around and just see what they're up to. And when they announce a new deal, I look at what they're doing. You got to find people that you should follow
Yeah.
and people you trust. And if you want to invest alongside them, that's what's cool about crypto is you can.
Hmm. Okay.
Fred Wilson, he's a well-known VC. His blog is actually just avc.com. He was an
ABC.
investor in Coinbase, Twitter, a bunch of other stuff,
Okay.
and he posted the Helium investment. So he's a backer of the Helium project,
Oh.
and he was posting about it in like June of 2019.
Okay.
So that's how I first learned about that, and you could pre-order miners back then,
Hmm.
and so I did that.
Hmm.
So I mean, if you just find people like that you trust.
Yeah.
And that was what was great about Helium was that there was no pre-mine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I looked at the way they were going to launch that token and that chain, it was more than just, oh, this is a VC backed project, it's bad. It's like, no, you have to actually go in and look deeper
Yeah.
to find out what are the terms going to be. So it's not easy. You have to do your work, you have to do your research. But if you look at the coins that Fred Wilson has backed,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of them have done really well, and most of them have hit Coinbase.
Okay. Yeah, I've noticed a lot of the same logos and names on various projects for VC stuff, and I'm slowly starting to be able to recognize. Okay, I know that that is a good thing that that logo and name is on there as a VC, and but it's taken a while and to really kind of grasp what all that is and what that means. So I guess a VC does not. I mean, they wouldn't want to immediately dump their tokens because that gives them a bad reputation, right?
In theory, yeah.
Okay.
In theory, because some of them, you can't speak for everyone on that, but because there's so many of them out there,
Yeah.
but certainly some of them have better reputations than others. I would say that what you want to do is to really learn like how they think. Thankfully, they're very vocal people, and they're always posting articles or conversations. They're trying to build their brand. So you can actually dig in and find the people's names of like the partners of the funds
Okay.
and find them on Twitter, find out what they're writing about, what they're saying, see if you agree with them. They're basically just very public and buttoned up versions of like what we're doing.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I mean,
That's
that's what's
interesting.
great about this is that what's really great about crypto is that you can get venture capital like returns as a retail investor.
Yeah, yeah, and that's something I kind of harp on every single day is that DeFi just takes away the whole idea of accredited investor and allows anybody to use these financial tools that have been really just allocated privileged opportunities for the privileged only, and
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
and there's no
Yeah,
way
because
I would have been able to learn about this without this
you have to
decentralization.
get your hands dirty.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like you have to actually put a couple bucks in
Mm-hmm.
and see how it works.
Mm-hmm. Well, Ethereum has gotten a little expensive. So how do you tell new people? What is the first step you tell new people to get into this space?
It used to definitely be Ethereum,
Yeah,
but now with the fees, it's not feasible because you're paying $100 to sign a smart contract,
yeah,
and so you're depositing on Uniswap like it's not feasible for the average person.
yeah.
So it's funny, I haven't had to do this lately, but I don't really know what I would say to somebody. That's been my go-to for a while. Just like, hey, you guys, you should really take $100 and play with Uniswap
Uh-huh.
because you need to see how this works. you're really you really need to see this in action.
Mm-hmm.
Now the fees. If somebody were to ask me, I suppose I would probably say something about like Cosmos. So
Wow. Huh.
I'm super interested in the Cosmos world. I think there's really amazing things happening, and Cosmos is having a bit of a moment right now. These different coins that are listed on the Cosmos hub
Uh-huh.
have been just skyrocketing over the past couple weeks and months. And I don't think that's over by any means. So
Yeah.
if somebody were to ask me how to get started, I would push them to buy Cosmos on Coinbase and then withdraw to the wallet and start playing around because Cosmos DeFi is just at the ground floor still. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
there, I can give you some links on that, but there's a wallet called the Kepler wallet,
Yeah. I use
and
Kepler.
it's yeah, yeah. So you probably already see these then.
A secret network
Um,
is real big in the Cosmos ecosystem, isn't it?
yes, Secret is my top idea,
Yeah.
I would say, because I think they had some issues last week that make me a little nervous, but I'm really excited around
Mm-hmm.
what they're doing. And that was actually what got me on the Kepler project wallet in the first place. And here's a great example of the community at work. One of my good friends, I had been kind of banging the table or talking about Secret. He got the Kepler wallet. He started playing with it too, and he's like, "Hey, have you looked at any of these other coins that are in this wallet?" And I'm like, "No, not really, but I kind of want to." He started digging in like crazy, and it was just like, "Hey, man, you gotta check this one out, this one out, this one out." Like A Cash,
Yeah, I've been
it's
meaning to look into
AKT.
Acash. Wait, yeah, that sounds amazing what Acash is doing. I want to do an entire video on that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of it. I It's been performing greatly.
Mm-hmm.
So he really, I was very hesitant because I'm like, hey, like these products, they sound cool. There's a lot of buzzwords. I don't really know if they're worth looking into. And he was just relentless in making sure that I eventually looked into some of those, and
Yeah.
they've done pretty well. So that was just another example of having someone on your team that can push you to learn and making sure that if I'm super busy with work and I have weeks where the last thing I want to do at night is read about
Yeah.
anything. But the good news is that they're kind of carrying the torch. Like we all kind of take turns
Uh-huh.
when we get too busy. So um, yeah, I would say because with Cosmos though, there's a lot of DeFi stuff happening there where they're launching some new different yield aggregators and market automated markets
Mm-hmm.
are all coming online. So Osmosis, have you heard of that?
I've heard of it. I don't know much about it.
That's kind of like the Cosmos version of Uniswap,
Okay.
and that launched a couple months ago. So if I were to try to help somebody learn about DeFi or get involved, I would be pushing them to do Cosmos stuff because the fees are are very low. They're very minimal, like a couple bucks
Well, that's an
max.
interesting approach because a lot of people think that the road to learning about crypto is to first go through Bitcoin and go through, learn about
Right.
Ethereum and then you go through the CFI, Celsius and BlockFi, and then you can do DeFi. But I mean, is that really necessary? Like, you can just jump straight to level three, learn those tools, and without having to learn about the history of the entire. Because people nowadays they learn stuff and apps on iPhones without having to learn the Commodore 6400, like the
Totally,
original
and
PC.
that's assuming. I think like I'm kind of already assuming a pretty base level knowledge of how buying and selling something works on like a app because most people I know have already used Robinhood,
Mm-hmm.
so like they kind of get the basics, and
Yeah.
then really what you're doing is there's a huge barrier to buying and selling on a website to buying something on Coinbase Pro and then withdrawing it to some other wallet
Yeah,
where
there
you're
is.
then starting to do stuff like
Mm-hmm.
there's a huge comfort issue that's got to be overcome there. And so for people who want to be involved, like you have to buy these coins before they're listed on Coinbase
Yeah.
if you want to be in on the life changing money.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to just get used to it, and that's where I'd say, okay, look, buy $50 worth of Atom and send it out into a Capital wallet, and then start playing with it on osmosis.
Yeah.
And you're going to see how it works. You're going to see it's not impossible, but
Mm-hmm.
there's a huge risk there because these protocols can fail. I don't know. Did you see what happened on Secret Swap last week?
No, I didn't. I've been too focused on Solana and Arbitrum earlier this
Uh,
week.
so the same day Solana went down, Secret Swap went down,
Oh
and
no.
it was all that stuff that happened. There was like a certain smart contract on their swap that had a flaw, like an exploitable flaw, and so they had to shut down the whole network, or they shut down the front end so
Yeah.
you couldn't do stuff, and it was all just a good reminder that like these things are very, very risky. I mean,
Yeah.
if the technology breaks, it's not just risky because there's volatility,
Mm-hmm.
but it's risky because if the actual technology breaks or does not function as intended, like if you have wealth locked up in there,
Mm-hmm.
it very potentially going to zero or getting hacked. So when I tell people, it's like, hey, play with like $50 or something and get used to it and figure out how this works. I'm not recommending that they put a portion of their life savings
Yeah.
in. I'm just saying you gotta you gotta learn this stuff so you understand what is happening. Otherwise, you read the news articles, you don't you don't really get the same feel.
No, no. Well, I mean, I think it'll become a lot easier, and that barrier you're talking about will come down whenever we can do dollars fiat to layer two solutions, so we won't have to mess with the high gas fees. And but yeah,
Agreed.
or fiat directly into without the Coinbase intermediary or something like fiat direct to DeFi, and I don't know if the SEC will ever allow that to happen, or they'll definitely make it really hard. But yeah, once we can start, I don't know how that would work. I mean, do
Yeah.
you have any idea?
Well, I think you have to. This is going to be controversial, but I think you have to have the on ramp and the off ramp, right? The fiat on ramp like Coinbase or
Mm-hmm.
wherever, and that's got to be that's got to be the tollway for the IRS, the SEC. I mean, there does have to be something like that. I think that's just it's not feasible that the government will allow markets to exist where taxes aren't being paid.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't know how they go after that, but so I think it's important that you have some kind of on ramp where you buy it and then you now have to withdraw it into the decentralized world.
Mm,
I don't know that can be innovated on.
yeah,
That's a very inside the box thought
yeah,
that I'm making. Um, I don't know how you, to your point, like I don't know really how you make that better.
yeah,
It can be done, but I do think there's going to be issues of the the taxation part.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, you got to pay the piper enough to keep them off your back, I guess, and you don't want to become such a huge, obnoxious violation of all the rules that you become a target.
That's what's interesting. So last week on the CallIn episode we were talking about the SEC stuff with Brian Armstrong's tweet storm
Uh
about
huh.
Coinbase and the lend thing, and yeah, I don't know how they get around all that stuff because now they have a huge target on their back, like they're a
Yeah.
public crypto company,
Yeah.
and so
You got to stay
we'll see
hush,
how it. Yeah, I don't know. Well, that's what Binance is doing too, is because they really want to go public, and so they're complying now with all the
Mm-hmm.
regulators, and I think it's the only way. I guess they're all kind of coming to the same conclusion. Um, there will always be these decentralized sections of the
Mm-hmm.
world, right? Like the osmosis or the uniswaps, but they're going to have targets on their back as they
Mm-hmm.
continue to grow.
Yeah.
So I don't
Yeah.
know how they're going to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah. The tallest weed gets cut down the first. So.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said.
Well, shoot, man, we're at 45 minutes. We were wondering if you were wondering if we had 30 minutes worth of stuff to talk about. I could continue going on and on, but I got to do the breakfast for the kids and all that stuff. I hear them starting to rumble up there. Um,
Well,
but
hey, this has been really fun. I always enjoy this. I would say we should do a call-in show sometime
yeah,
where what's good about that app is it is unfortunately iPhone only or it's iOS only, but what's cool is we can have people, it's kind of like Clubhouse where
okay,
people can raise their hand and come, we can bring them on and we can interact directly with the audience.
okay,
I would say let's try to do that sometime,
yeah.
or have like a community Discord thing. I would really love to just kind of interact with the audience a little bit.
Yeah, that would be rad. Maybe next weekend or something we can try to do Clubhouse. Or maybe, I don't know, sometime in the evening. I don't know. We'll figure it out,
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah,
there is a POAP for this show, and for those of you who don't know what POAP NFTs are, it basically stands for Proof of Attendance Protocol, and it's just an NFT badge, and you get it on the XDAI chain. You can transfer it over to your Ethereum MetaMask wallet if you want, or you can just keep it on your XDAI chain. I don't want. I could make an entire episode out of POAP NFTs and the future of decentralized ID and reputation systems and stuff like that are decentralized. I'm not going to go into that. Just know that POAPs, I think, are valuable, and it's a cool way also to just show what you've done in the crypto space, and you have proof of it, and it's right there, and they're fun to design too. So I designed, as you can see on the screen, the crypto chemistry POAP NFT right there. So I have 50 links. Crypto chemistry has 50 links. Hit either one of us up. I usually run out of them pretty quick. So we'll send you the link, and you can claim your POAP to have and store and keep, and maybe one day it might be worth something. You don't know. So so
let's
yeah.
hope so.
All right then. Yeah, thanks again, Crypto Chemistry, for talking. I'd definitely love to do this again, and we'll see also about doing the call-in app as well. And yeah, there's so many more things I could talk about. I mean, we just got started, so
Yeah, man. Well, thank you so much. I was so for people who want to chat, the URL for our kind of the crypto chemistry links would be cryptochemistry.io. You'll find the Twitter links and everything there. But definitely, if you tweet at me, I'll send you one of the NFTs.
oh, and what's your Twitter handle?
Yeah, I think it's crypto underscore chem. The
Okay.
Twitter handle is also on the .io URL, but yeah, it's crypto underscore CHEM.
Yeah, and I'm gonna post this on my Twitter as well. It's Eureka John, the number one, Eureka John one, and then you will see. I will tag crypto chemistry in there as well, and so you'll see it there. So add crypto chemistry to your Twitter. Follow. It's a good follow, and yeah. So give us some feedback and give us a thumbs up if you're on any of those video platforms. All right. All right. Thanks a
Thanks,
lot.
John.
All right. Bye.
Bye.